Welcome back to Buffalo Times. I'm Nancy Shade, and I'm here with JonRamsay, and we're going to talk about the Center for Agricultural Economy and help people understand how it is accessible and how you can enjoy and work and build along with this wonderful organization, of which he is the executive director. JonRamsay.
Hi.
Hi. I'm glad to be here. It's quite a place. We're in the community room. Is that what you call it?
Yes, we're calling it the community room.
The community room. And why do you call it the community room? What do you use it for? How do we get to be here?
Well, this room is part of the Food Hub. So the Food Hub is our new facility that we just moved into 2 months ago. And we have several programs at the Center for Agricultural Economy, and some of our programs are really oriented towards community engagement and food access. And we always envisioned a space where we could host those community engagement activities. And that was sort of the genesis for the community room and sort of the vision that we had for this space. So it's actually not complete. You know, there's still a couple of finishing touches that we're going to put here in the room. For instance, we're getting AV equipment that'll go in here. But as you can see behind me, we have a full kitchen. And we really envision people using this space for classes, for workshops, community gatherings. Last week we had the Vermont Institute for Intern Partnerships, I think it's called, here. There's about 35 people using this space. And we want to make this accessible to the community for whatever use is, helpful. So in the fall of 2019, the Center for Agricultural Economy built the pavilion at Atkins Field, and we had done outreach in the community, and the pavilion was something that the community said would be important to put at Atkins as a gathering space. We didn't envision all of the different ways that the pavilion would get used. Similar to this room here, I'm sure there are ideas that people have that we haven't thought of in terms of the future use of this room. It's a matter of making these spaces available, like the pavilion at Atkins, and then seeing what the community comes up with for ideas. So that's part of our the background thinking of this space as well.
That's wonderful. You heard that here, community. You might need to give John a call. Is that how they would approach you for the use of the room?
For the use of this room specifically, we're going to have the ability for people to make requests online, and that will go to our staff who work in the community, and they will actually do the scheduling. So Reeve Basom, who's our place-based education coordinator.
Reeve
Basom.
Basom.
She's our place-based education coordinator and works within the OSSU school district. She actually co-teaches a class up at Hazen called The Recipe for Human Connection.
Wonderful.
So Reeve would help with the scheduling, or Bethany Dunbar, who's our community programs manager,
great.
Or Haley Williams, who is the Hardwick Farmers Market manager. Haley's also part of our staff.
Yes.
So there will really be the folks to, receive the request about using the space, look at the calendar, see if there's something already booked, or if the request could be accommodated. So there'll be sort of a scheduling, system on our website and everything.
And you have the sink and the kitchen stoves and everything behind us is what they can also use?
Yes, yep.
And so would it be like for doing recipes and a learning facility, as well as an organizing facility of different ideas?
Sure, yes. And one of the things that the center does in partnership with the Hardwick Area Food Pantry is a workshop series called Grow Your Own. And Grow Your Own is held monthly. And the Grow Your Own Steering Committee meets every year and determines what workshops will be held monthly. And a lot of those workshops actually happen at Atkins Field, but during colder, months or rainy weather, those workshops could actually happen in this room as well. So that's an example of a community learning opportunity around local food that's already happening, and now we have this space and all of the equipment here for folks to use for grow your own or workshops with schools or community events.
And how do you get the workers? I mean, with harvesting time, how do you interact with the people who are helping harvesting times?
Well, we're a lot of our other programs. So a lot of our programs, place-based education, food justice, Atkins Field, is really focused around the community around Hardwick. Some of our other programs, including Just Cut, Farm Connects, the Vermont Farm Fund, and Business Resources, they work directly with farms. We're not doing a lot of the harvesting per se at farms, but what we are doing is going out to a lot of farms and picking up product that they have either grown or raised, and we bring that product back here, or we bring it back to our other facility, the Vermont Food Venture Center, and it either gets processed or it gets moved to stores, restaurants, schools, hospitals, farm stands. So we move a lot of food. We physically move a lot of food. We're not harvesting a lot of food. Yeah.
So they have something harvested, such as carrots.
Yep.
And then they bring it here to clean it and cut it and freeze it, dry freeze it. What do they do once they have? That must be a really busy time.
Yeah.
Do you have volunteers that come in and help cut things, and are people that you have come in and pay to do the work? How does that all iron out?
How does it all work? Yeah. So for our Just Cut program, which is where we're contracting with area farmers to grow root crops for us, we are purchasing tens and thousands of pounds of carrots, potatoes, beets, cabbage from those farms, and we actually will drive our truck out to the farm and pick it up and bring it back to the Food Venture Center or this building. And so we're contracting with those farmers to grow crops for us, and we're really leaning into root crops, which store really well in Vermont. So today, over at the Vermont Food Venture Center, as an example, we're actually processing potatoes that were grown last year and that have been in storage, and we're washing them and preparing them into 1-inch diced potatoes, which will be then moved to institutional cafeterias like schools, hospitals, colleges. So it's actually our staff that's actually doing that work. And because of the volume of food that we're moving and the logistics, it really is a trained staff that has the expertise to move this volume of food. Last year in our Just Cut program, we purchased and then processed in one of the kitchens at the Food Venture Center, I think over 175,000 pounds of produce, which equates to nearly 500,000 servings of food in local school, college, and hospital cafeterias. Farm Connects, which is our trucking and logistics and fulfillment program, works with another 80 farms around Vermont, and last year moved over 4.5 million pounds of local food off farm to markets. That includes, again, institutions, farm stands, stores, restaurants. So this is a pretty scaled operation in terms of the volume of food and the logistics and the equipment. Trucks on the road, and we're also taking on a lot of the sort of behind the scene things that make it tough for farmers to access markets.
Yes.
And so it's really a trained staff of CAE that makes all that work happen.
And marketing.
And marketing, yes. Yeah.
And marketing is very difficult for farmers.
Yes.
Because they don't want to lose their produce.
No.
What about herbs? Do you work with like lavender or mint or any drying of herbs yet? Or
well, some producers that we work with at the Food Venture Center make a whole host of value-added products, and some of them are infusing herbs into their products. Some of the producers, some of the farms we work with are growing herbs and selling them into the market, and we're moving them from the farm to the market for those producers. We ourselves are not buying any herbs from farms, but we are doing the logistics of moving them from the farm to a restaurant or another market.
So the Food Venture Center is the big player in all of this as well.
Yes.
In the connection with the farmers to you, to the market.
Yep. Yeah.
But you're overseeing the whole process.
Yes, the Center for an Agricultural Economy oversees all of that, and the center, we actually own and manage 3 different places. We've talked about them a little bit. One is the Food Hub, which is a 12,500 square foot facility that we're in right now. That includes the community room, but on the other side of that wall over there, we have almost 5,000 square feet dedicated to cold, frozen, and root crop storage.
I see.
And the Vermont Food Venture Center is another facility of ours. And in that building, there's a creamery that we rent to Jasper Hill, and that's where they make all of their soft rind cheeses, as well as 3 other production kitchens that we use ourselves for the Just Cut program, or we provide to growing farm and food businesses who want to make value-added products. And then the third place that CAE manages and owns is Atkins Field. So sort of that's all of that is happening under the umbrella of our nonprofit organization. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
So if people want to have some product at the farmers market, they get in touch with.
So we have some producers right now who are sort of gearing up for farmers markets, getting jams and jellies ready, or elderberry syrup, or sort of some of those things.
Right on this property.
Over at the Vermont Food Venture Center. Yeah. So they would get in touch with Colleen Christ. Colleen is our production advisor at the Vermont Food Venture Center. And so they would get in touch with her to reserve one of the kitchens, and she actually would also provide technical assistance support to those producers in the kitchen. So it's not only is it a kitchen that you can use with big mixers and fillers and ovens and 60-gallon steam kettles and tilt skillets and all of those things, you also get Colleen's expertise in food safety and equipment use and recipe development and batch size and looking at your cost of goods to produce however many jars of jelly you might want to do, or whatever the product is. And so the producers and farms who are renting the kitchens from us at the Food Venture Center, they're renting those kitchens on an hourly basis, but they're receiving all of Colleen's technical assistance for free.
And who does the physical work?
Colleen will work with the producer in the kitchen to help them make their product.
I see.
Yeah. And then in the Just Cut kitchen, all of the preparing of the produce that we purchase, that's our staff doing that 175,000 pounds that I mentioned before. Yeah.
So if somebody is making jams like peach jam, they bring in the peaches and they rent the space to be able to make it into a product. Yep,
exactly. So like right now we have an elderberry syrup producer, Green Mountain Elderberry. And he's sourcing elderberries locally and other ingredients locally. He has his packaging and his bottles shipped to the Food Venture Center. So when he's there doing production, all of his ingredients and packaging are right there. Can sort of pull them off the pallet that he's renting, and then produce in the kitchen, and put all of the elderberry syrup in their jars, and then off you go.
So if somebody has a raspberry farm, do they get in touch with somebody who needs raspberries to bring to here?
Generally, they would be bringing their own fruit and then making it into jams or jellies or something, and then selling it into a market that they've already found. Is usually how it works. Yeah.
So it must cross over sometimes. There must be, when the harvest is coming in, it must be a crossover. And so that's an organizational responsibility that is pretty important.
Well, I mean, I think in terms of making sure that these farm, and maybe this is sort of the question you're asking, you know, all of our work with farm and food businesses is helping towards their viability. And so maybe, you know, there's a lot of time sensitivity to what happens. And so when things are sort of coming into harvest or ready to be harvested or needs to be delivered, there's a lot of logistics that we take on as an organization to help them with that.
Mm-hmm. That's the time sensitivity part.
Yes. Every day is time sensitive. So as an example, we are distributing most all of Stratford Organic Creamery's milk and ice cream, all of Sweet Rowan's milk and cheese, Pete's Greens, CSAs and wholesale, Butterworks yogurt, Greenfield Highland beef, Snug Valley pork and beef, everything that not everything, but most of the things that we're moving from farm to market are perishable products.
And how do you do the beef? Where do you do that?
Well, we are picking it up already processed.
I see.
So we pick up at Bros Slaughterhouse in Troy. We pick up at Northeast Kingdom Processing over in Danville. We pick up at Vermont Livestock over in Ferrisburg. And so we pick up the product when it's ready and then bring it to where it needs to go for those farmers. So they're not driving back and forth across the state. And the same thing with all of the dairy. Our trucks are down in Stratford 2 days a week. When they're doing their bottling, we're actually, the milk is coming off the bottling line and basically going right onto our truck, because we know that once the milk is bottled, there's a shelf life and they have to get that milk to market. Mm-hmm. So we are right there. Same thing, we go up to Sweet Rowan twice a week. When they're bottling, we pick up their product, move it to market. This is all very time sensitive.
Yes.
And a lot of logistics and a lot of labor in order to move this volume of food. But it represents substantial income for the farm and food producers that we work with. Well over $15 million a year of income for these farms between the programs that we're running. So we're really supporting a lot of farm viability and supporting a lot of working land staying in sustainable ag production through the work that we're doing. I did sort of a really quick sort of back of the napkin math exercise a while ago, where I was just like, well, how many acres of productive farmland are the farms that we're working with keeping open and sustainable? And it was well over 10,000 acres of Vermont farmland that the producers that we're working with are actively farming, and so it's a really big impact on the farm economy and our open working land and keeping it sustainable. So we're doing sort of a lot here in terms of the farm viability piece and the local economy. There's a lot that we're doing that is really behind the scenes of what's happening in local stores around the area and the farmers market we work really closely with, and there's a lot going on here every day.
So when Andrew Myers, he kind of started this, didn't he?
He was one of our founding board members.
He's
yes.
a founding
board member.
Board member.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I don't know what else to ask you about it. You've covered the waterfront as far as I can see.
Oh.
But when people are small farmers, how do they bring something into you? Like if somebody has duck eggs, mm-hmm. Which is a small farm.
Right.
But they're eggs nonetheless. I mean, would that come into the kitchen where they would be making pastries, somebody would be making pastries. How do they let you know that they have duck eggs?
Right, right. Well, I mean, so an example of that would probably be either working with the Hardwick Farmers Market or working with, you know, we actually move a lot of eggs through Farm Connects, our trucking and distribution service. So again, it's not necessarily that we would be purchasing those eggs, but we would be helping the farm move them to whatever market they have for those eggs. One of my sort of favorite stories is so Sweet Rowan Farm. You've probably seen their product, right? It's in Willie's and Buffalo Market. So Paul is really good friends with a farmer down in Norwich, Nora Lake at Sweetland Farm, and Nora has a great farm stand. You know, her farm is in the Upper Valley. There's a lot of folks down there. It's on a main road. If you've ever been to Paul's farm in Albany, it's on a back road, very hard to get to, not a lot of people driving by every day. And part of the work that we do allows Paul to sell his milk directly to Nora, and we're not interfering with that farmer to farmer transaction. So like going back to the duck egg example, the Dill family Chandler Pond Farm over in Wheelock is another example where they're buying in a lot of other products that they don't produce themselves from other farms, like duck eggs or, you know, produce or things like that. So it's not necessarily that we're buying all of these things as much as it is as that we're creating connections and opportunities for farmers to work together.
It's a real network.
Yes, yes.
And so people shouldn't be shy about trying to move into the network.
Right, exactly. And yes, exactly, yeah.
They just don't know what to do with their product if they make more than what they can consume.
Right.
On a small farm.
Right.
It might be that somebody else needs that.
Right. Yes, yes, very much so.
And who do they call for that?
Yeah. So we also at the Center for Ag Economy have a group of staff that provide technical assistance and business planning assistance to farm and food businesses. So if someone were saying, okay, you know, I'm producing this amount of food, it might be on a small farm, it might be a homestead farm, it might be a farm that they're aspiring to grow. And a question like that they could bring to one of our farm and food business specialists, like that's Daniel Keeney's role at CAE.
Daniel Keeney.
Daniel Keeney, yep.
Okay.
And could talk to Daniel about, you know, what market opportunities are there, or, you know, is there a way to actually build a business plan around what I'm doing? And all of that technical assistance is funded through the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board. And so we're able to offer that technical assistance free of charge to farmers. So that's sort of another service.
That's great.
That's another service that we provide. One of the things that we've been really working on over the last couple of years is you know, how do we work with you know, our really small scale farmers, our, you know, sort of medium sized farmers, and also the sort of larger operations. And so we've really sort of tailored our programs to try to sort of be able to work with, you know, all sort of different scale and type of farms. And as an example, sort of on the heels of the pandemic, well, sort of just to back up a second, during the pandemic, to back up even a step further,
That's okay.
so I was explaining Just Cut, right, where we're buying upwards of 170,000 pounds of produce a year. That's a lot of food.
It's a lot of food.
It's a lot of food, and all of that's going into schools and colleges and hospitals. But what happened during the pandemic was all of those institutions got shut down, and hospitals were on lockdown because they really, you know, wanted to, you know, reduce any sort of contact with, you know, sort of outside vendors and things. So in March of 2020, we found ourselves in a situation where we had signed contracts to buy tens and tens and tens of thousands of pounds of produce from farms, and suddenly there was no market.
And that was, you were sort of beginning at that point.
Yes,
Ooh.
yes. So what we ended up doing is we ended up pivoting, we raised funds, and we ended up pivoting all of that produce into local food pantries. And because we had just onboarded Farm Connects with the fleet of refrigerated trucks in January of 2020, we were able to move all of that food to not only local food pantries, but to food pantries like up in Holland or in northwestern Vermont or in the Upper Valley. So we pivoted all of that produce into food pantry accounts. And actually we participated in the USDA Farmers Feeding Families program, and moved a lot of produce through that. And eventually the USDA awarded the contract to an outside food conglomerate and stopped focusing hyper-local, which was a real bummer because Vermont was the real shining example of the USDA Farmers Feeding Families program. But out of that, we decided to localize that program and start something new called Produce to Pantries. And using some of the same concepts as Just Cut, where we contract with farms to grow produce, we contract with farms to grow produce for Produce to Pantries as well. And we really have sort of honed in on working with very small growers specifically for that program in this area, as a way to support them or support new and beginning or historically disadvantaged farmers, as a way to, basically buy a percentage of what they're already growing, and then all that food is donated to the Craftsbury, Hardwick, Albany, Barton, and Holland food pantries currently. So that's sort of an example of where we've sort of crafted a program really specifically for that small scale produce grower. And then with Just Cut, we're working with a lot of the medium scale produce growers to buy the tens of thousands of pounds of produce. And then with Farm Connects, which is our distribution service with the trucks and everything, we're working with the really big produce growers, like all of the members of Deep Root Organic Co-op and Pete's Greens and those folks. So there's sort of a way in which 3 different programs are working with different scale producers. And then I would also say that Farm Connects is very unique because we will move cases for producers and farms, whereas traditional distributors want just this volume that is really hard for small farmers to meet, sort of in the conventional distributorship model. So some small farms will ship a case of eggs or a case of beef or a case of produce, or even like we work with Morningstar up in Glover, and that might be a bag of beans that they grew, or they also grow wheat and millet and produce flour, and so we're able to work with some folks that otherwise wouldn't have access to these types of services, sort of in the sort of traditional distributorship models that are out there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then there are bakers that need the multi-grain
Yes.
as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, this one company that makes the multi-grain, I won't name it because it's probably not right to do that, but I have multi-grain every toast every morning.
Yep.
And I remember when they were starting up, they were a young couple.
Yep.
And I had their bread down in Montpelier, and I said, "You're going to be millionaires someday." And now you can get it everywhere, and it's always almost sold out.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's really amazing how these grains have to be grown.
Yes. Yes.
Locally even.
Yes. Yes. We're seeing a lot more interest in farms growing local grain, there's a farm in the Northeast Kingdom that we're working with currently, and they're transitioning their farm from dairy to predominantly grain, and that's a really big undertaking in terms of transitioning your whole operation. But that's an example where we're providing technical assistance in the form of a new business plan. We provided a loan through the Vermont Farm Fund. We haven't talked about the Farm Fund yet. We should talk about the Farm Fund a little bit. We provided a loan, and then they're also using Farm Connects, our distribution service. So that's a farm that's using 3 of our programs to, transition from dairy into grain. And there's a lot of farms that work with multiple programs of CAE. Yeah.
That is amazing. It's really useful, isn't it?
Yes.
What did we do before?
Well, it was, as a state, we've been predominantly dairy, and that's, obviously been a conversation in Vermont for decades now, is sort of the decline of dairy and what's going to happen. I think, just in this area, you can drive the back roads of Hardwick and Greensboro and Glover and Craftsbury and Albany, and, we have large and small produce operations, we have grain operations, we have pork and beef operations, we still have dairy, we also have value-added dairy, we've got goat dairy. So you sort of see what's possible with the future of agriculture with, kind of this infrastructure that we're developing so that farms and food businesses can plug into that. And, I think that's one of the things that when I'm out talking at like a statewide level, I try to highlight to say, this isn't just about, a warehouse or a piece of infrastructure for the Center for Agricultural Economy. It's really, in order to sort of like fully sort of see the impact, it's driving around all of our back roads and seeing, all of these farms, that are still there, and all of the new ones that are there. And that's really, for me, the inspiring part of the work. Because I'm a farmer, I raise beef, I grew up farming, and that's what I'm really, passionate about.
Did you grow up farming here in Vermont?
So my family and I moved to, my family and I were renting two different dairy farms down in Connecticut. And my parents were not in a position to buy a farm down there. And in 1988, we moved our entire dairy herd and all of our equipment from northwestern Connecticut to Greensboro. And they bought a dairy farm in Greensboro in the late 80s. So I grew up dairy farming. I was 11 when we moved, and so I grew up dairy farming with my parents. In 2001, I transitioned the farm to a beef operation, and sort of became one of the primary managers of the farm, along with my folks at that time. And so, yes, I grew up, pretty much grew up here in Greensboro, Hardwick, farming, and yeah.
This is so interesting. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I really have learned a lot about this operation and how intense it is. So I wish you all the best with it.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm sure everybody does. But you were going to say something about the financing.
Right.
I know we can give donations just as individual people in the state.
Right.
But how is it working?
Yeah. Before can I just mention the Farm Fund and
sure,
and
that's what I wanted you to talk
about. So the Vermont Farm Fund started as a outcome of the tragic fire up at Pete's Greens, a little over a decade ago now, and the community really rallied to help rebuild that. And as a way of paying it forward, Pete took some of that money and created a little seed, a little seed pocket, or a little seed money, and turned it into a revolving loan fund. And it needed a nonprofit to receive donations for that revolving loan fund, and so it sort of came under the center's umbrella as well. And now through individual donations over the last decade plus, we have been able to build up a revolving loan pool of $1.6 million. and we have over $1 million in circulation right
Amazing.
now in the form of small, low-interest loans to help support these farm businesses make investments on their farm. And so it's just a real success story of, the community sort of rallying behind a farm, saying, I want to pay it forward, putting a little bit of seed money into a concept, and then again through, just individual donations. And so last year, we supported, I think, 35 different farms with loans, and supported, I think, over $700,000 went out the door to support those farms. And
they need equipment, and they need to be able to buy seeds and
yes,
everything.
yes.
Go on. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, exactly. And a lot of folks are trying to invest in, grow their businesses. So the Farm Fund has really become this really critical tool. And again, it's a low interest rate, and as farmers repay the loan, the money is relent to other farms. So it's truly this really community of practice of a revolving loan fund from farmer to farmer. Like I said, last year, over $700,000 in loans went out, including a number of emergency loans after flooding. So we've really seen over the last couple of years a real uptick in the use of the fund after the 23 and 24 floods.
And donations.
Yeah.
Because it all started with Pete's seeding the donations.
Yep. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. So overall, right now, the Center for an Ag Economy, we're a staff of 40.
That's what I was going to ask you. That's not that many people.
So we're a staff of 40.
For the amount of work you're doing.
Yes, it's a lot.
Does that include the truck drivers?
Yes, that's the truck drivers. That's
so they're permanently driving for you.
Yep.
I see.
Yep. Some of our drivers are driving 2 days a week. Some of them drive 3 or 4 days a week. And that includes all of our staff that do the technical assistance, all of our staff working in the community, all of our staff working in the kitchens, all of our staff supporting the loan program, and then all of our admin and finance staff. We are, I don't know how many tens and tens of thousands of transactions we're facilitating every year. It's a lot. So we're an organization of 40 now, and we have a overall org budget of $4.4 million, and roughly $1.6 million of that is earned revenue from all of our services and sale of product, and the rest is grants and contributions. So every year we're sort of piecing all of that together as well, and putting all of that together. Last year was a really big year because not only were we running all of our day-to-day operations, but we also were mid-construction for the food hub here. And one of the things that, so the food hub is part of the Yellow Barn project in Hardwick. And the
Yellow Barn is not included. Is that separate from, that's an outlet itself?
Right.
So is that separate from your organization?
It is, yeah.
Oh, well, see, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people aren't sure about who runs the Yellow Barn.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. So the 4.5 acre property here that we're on includes 2 buildings, the Yellow Barn and this new building, the Food Hub. And it's the 4.5 acres, including those 2 buildings, is owned by the town of Hardwick. And the town of Hardwick has an agreement with Northeast Kingdom Development Corporation to be the fiscal agent, if you will, for this property. And so the Center for Agricultural Economy, we are one of 2 tenants in this new building. Jasper Hill is the other. And Cabot is leasing the Yellow Barn from Northeast Kingdom Development Corporation. So the project includes 3 different tenants, us, Jasper Hill, and Cabot. So Cabot is managing the Yellow Barn. We're not managing it. But the overall Yellow Barn project was a collaboration of the town of Hardwick, the Northeastern Vermont Development Corporation, David Snedeker and Allison Lowe, our regional planning commission folks, the Northeast Kingdom Development Corporation, Jasper Hill, and like I said, the town was sort of the core collaborators. And the first iteration of the Yellow Barn project was way over budget because it happened sort of during the pandemic and everything. And in order for the town to get its portion of the project in budget, a couple of things happened. One, Cabot came along and expressed interest in leasing the entire barn. So that streamlined sort of the design plan for the Yellow Barn. So the town decided to lease that whole building to Cabot. That decision was made, I think, in 2022. And then for the new building, the town said, well, we have a certain amount of money, and what we can do with that amount of money that we have is we can construct the shell of this new building. So the roof, walls, floor, and the town said, if you want to lease the space, you'll have to do all of your own fit up, all of your own internal construction. You will be responsible for funding that and financing that. So last year we were fundraising and financing all of the internal construction for our half of the building. Jasper Hill's financing their own, for their half of the building. But electrical, plumbing, refrigeration, heating, this kitchen, the walls, the doors, was, for this 12,000 square feet here was all financed and fundraised for by CAE. The last piece that we're hoping to do this year, the Center for Ag Economy, is install a solar array on the roof of this building.
It's a flat roof, isn't it?
It's a fairly flat roof, yeah. The design at which the center undertook for our space, we aspire to have a net zero food hub. And so what that meant was we went and invested in refrigeration that was both environmentally friendly and incredibly energy efficient. And that refrigeration system, waste heat as it operates, becomes our primary heat for this space.
Oh.
And then combined with high efficiency wood pellet boilers and the solar array, we should be 100% net metered facility once that array goes in place. But we're still fundraising for the solar array. So we're not done with our fundraising. We're not actually done with our construction. We're hoping to do the solar this year. So we took on a very ambitious design, and it's a design that we want to share with others, going forward in the future. The investments we made, were much sort of higher than sort of standard equipment, but there's a tremendous payback just in terms of cost over time, and then a tremendous amount of benefit for the environment. And we want to be able to capture that data and share it as we, sort of move through time in this building. So for instance, we should be saving upwards of $60,000 a year just in electricity from the investments that we made.
They're not going to take the dam down. They'll put up a little electrical plant there, and then you won't have to pay for it.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
No, they do have to figure out what to do with the dam, I think, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But that supplied down in Wolcott the electrical plant. I don't even know if that's still working.
Yeah.
But everything changes all the time, doesn't it?
It does.
But you're abreast with things. And did you ever think when you were 11 years old that you would be doing this?
No.
It's wonderful. Did you go to school in this vicinity at Hazen?
I did, yeah.
And then where did you go after that?
So I graduated from Hazen in 1995 and went to UVM. Graduated UVM in 1999. And sort of all along during college, I was driving back and forth between Greensboro and Burlington, farming on the weekends and things. And
studying agriculture there?
No, I studied natural resources and environmental studies.
Interesting.
Yep.
There's a woman named Mrs. I think it's Skinner, who knows about crocuses that grow a fine herb, saffron, and it's highly demanding because you have to take the little saffron out of the crocuses.
Oh, yes.
But
yes.
if you had the bulbs for the crocuses and you could grow crocuses, it's the herb that is the most costly on the market.
Yes.
So it makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
But it's hard to grow it and harvest it.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but it's interesting in the School of Agriculture there, but you didn't really need that because you were actually working on the farm.
Yes, I was working on the farm.
So how did your education help you with what you're doing now?
Well, I mean, it was a great education, and I, learned a lot about the environment and, natural resources management and forestry management, and I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, but when I was at UVM after my junior year, during the summer, the summer after my junior year, I got a job at the Vermont Land Trust for that summer. So I was both farming and working for Vermont Land Trust that summer. That was a very busy summer, I was working for Vermont Land Trust, and then did my senior year at UVM. And that spring, in April of '99, they were hiring a full-time position doing very similar things which I had done the summer before. So actually, I was hired by Vermont Land Trust in April of '99, graduated in May, and then that Monday after I graduated, I started working full-time for Vermont Land Trust, and I was actually there for 20 years.
Ooh.
And my last position at Vermont Land Trust was as the Farmland Access Program Director. And so I was facilitating a lot of farm transfers and actually worked with a number of farmers that the Center for Agricultural Economy now works with. So I was mentioning Sweet Rowan Farm earlier and how all of the work that we're doing. I actually helped with the transition and purchase of the land that Sweet Rowan is now on. As well as a few others like Wilson Herb Farm and a few others in the area. When I came to CAE, I had the agricultural background, and then I had done a lot of farm planning and farm business work and a lot of nonprofit work over that 2 decades at Vermont Land Trust. So I felt very fortunate to have an opportunity to put all of those things together, as well as be just a member of the community in this role. So I felt very, 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 very lucky to have had the opportunity to work at CAE and sort of like bring my life experience of a farmer and then working for a nonprofit and then working with all those farms in their business transition and land transition, and then also just sort of bring the experience of working for a nonprofit, to CAE. So I feel really fortunate to sort of have, landed here in July. It'll be 6 years at CAE. So
well, we're very fortunate to have you here.
Oh, thank you.
From 11-year-old to where you are now, it's a long journey.
Yeah.
And we appreciate it, and we enjoy being here with you and learning more about what this is.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think, the Center for Ag Economy, we are a very behind-the-scenes organization, and sometimes folks know us for Atkins Field or know us for the Farm Fund or the Food Venture Center, but sort of the whole umbrella of those things is under our organization, and sometimes that's hard to sort of piece all together. And so I really thank you for the opportunity to sit down and actually explain all of this, because usually it takes about an hour and a half to explain all of this.
It does. It's a lot, but it's so much clearer, and I hope it'll be clearer for our audience. And I watch from across the street with my friend Peggy, Marcy, and she had to take the limb off the tree.
Yep.
And she sat there and watched the limb come down, and that was really a big event for her at that time, because that tree, do you remember that tree?
I think so.
The big limb that would hang over?
Yeah.
And they had to take that limb down because otherwise the trucks wouldn't be able to come and go even. So it's just, it's a good memory of the yellow barn and what's happened to it, and I'm really glad that it was saved, and this new building is very functional and very useful for the whole state, I'm sure.
Yes.
And all the farmers.
Yes.
So we're working to be able to keep that going, and thank you for Thank you for
Yeah.
allowing us to interview you
Yeah.
with Hardwick Community Television. This is Nancy Shade signing off for Buffalo Times, and we hope you enjoyed this interview. I certainly did. Bye-bye.